thank you very much for coming on the show, Councillor Sharp. I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite some time. It's such a huge turnover in the Calgary City Council and Mayor. We don't see that very often. This is more of a once in a decade sort of thing. And admittedly, there were some concerns about perhaps, it seemed almost as if there was a slate or an unofficial party of councillors. But among them, I mean, you've proven yourself to be quite an independent thinker and standing up for yourself. You're not obviously not acting as a part of any group, so that's to be respected. And I really been looking forward to the chance to chat with you about that.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here today.
So I mean, it's quite a learning curve. I mean, and a huge thing. I guess at least a bit of a disadvantage in coming into such a new council with so many new faces. Though there were a couple of veterans who came back. I guess just in your experience in this last, you're almost halfway through your first year. In a nutshell, how's it been going for you?
Things been really, I would say, things have been going great. I came into this job, this role with, I would say, a wealth of experience of dealing with municipalities in general. So having that 20 years under my belt already as a previous city employee, I was able to navigate the system day one. So I kind of, it was nice to have the refreshers those first couple of weeks on orientation. But, I know the system. I know how municipalities work. I know the city of Calgary very well. I had pre-existing relationships where, I needed to get some work done right out of the gate. That was, kind of easy to cross the line. But you are still learning everybody else, right? You've got, 14 new colleagues, some with, different agendas, some with similar issues that you're dealing with. And you still have to kind of brand yourself and make sure that you're defining who you are, part of that 15 part of those 15 people. So, my biggest thing was, to represent my community, make sure that I'm following through with the things I talked about on the door and being me. That was one thing that I promised my constituents. What you see is what you get. And that's something that I will continue to do for the next 3.5 years. So far, we've been in this for 6 months. And there were some moments, right, where things are up and down. There were some issues, personality issues, and you have to deal with that. But you need to deal with it the way that you would deal with the situation. How do you de-escalate things and amongst ourselves? And how do you work together? How do you collaborate to get things across the finish line for the greater good? So, those first, I would say, 3 months, they're their hardest ones, just to learn different personalities and how people operate. And now we're in the next 3 that we're almost hitting 6 months now. Some of us have really gotten to know each other quite well, and we kind of even know what triggers that person, and or what will make this person totally collaborate. And those are great things. And to think that we're already at our almost 6-month mark is quite insane, actually. I'll be honest, because we've done a lot of work in 6 months. I know my office has been extremely busy with just constituent stuff and everything that's going on in the city. And so I'm looking forward to what the rest of this year is going to bring. So
Great. Well, Mayor Gondek came in, I guess, with a very ambitious start, I guess you could say. It was very quick hitting. Suddenly there was the declaration of a climate emergency, and then the unexpected issue that really kind of, I think, caught a lot of people flat-footed was the event center. And it's kind of back in the news now. So, I mean, it's on again, off again. It seems the deal had fallen apart last fall. And now it appears that there could be some new life being breathed into it with some different players. I think you're one of the ones that were on that committee, are you not?
I am on one of the ones on the committee. So there are 3 councillors out of the 5 that are on the committee. Myself, Councillor Dan McLean, and Councillor Courtney Walcott. We also brought in Deborah Yeldon from the Calgary Chamber and Brad Perry from Calgary Economic Development. And so, there was a deal last July. There was changes in council. I would say there was some, background information that still needs to kind of be researched. There was a break in communication. A project of that scale, thinking back now that I think back about all of this is, I think council should have been kind of briefed at something like the scale of a new council saying, this is where the project's at, this is where we're going. Would there have been an opportunity to stop maybe, things going off the rail? Could have been. But I would like to say that we've dealt with that and now we need to move forward. So the new council committee was struck this week, sorry, I'm like, I don't even know what week it is, on the 8th. And what's important here is that we make sure that now we work together to move forward. The event center is very critical for the city. It's critical for downtown. It's it's the heart of the Rivers District. And so now we need to use that momentum and keep going.
I think almost everybody would agree that something has to be done with that zone down there. I mean, we now have a giant zone of parking lots on the edge of a downtown that's already ailing and has already, had challenges being a destination for people to come down and do things. I guess a lot of the debate though is going to be how much obligation is there on the part of the city of Calgary or taxpayers to participate in filling that void, and how much is in the private mix. It's going to be quite a discussion, but we can't wait too much longer. I mean, this has been going on for a long time now.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So I think what we need to know, what we really need to do first is get the third party up and running and get that going. They will have those conversations with the partners, and time and speed is important. We do know that everything's raising in price, so cost escalations are a big deal. But what we want to make sure is transparency on what is going to be taxpayers, what's going to be private funding. That was very transparent towards the end of the second deal, and really, what does this mean for Calgary? So that is what's really important. And so right now, I don't have all those answers for you, but that is something that we hope to get to sooner than later.
So Calgary downtown in general, and then I work downtown. With the work from home orders lifted, it's been nice actually to see how crowded it's gotten. It was so moribund down here for so long, but still, there's a massive amount of downtown vacancies, as well as issues of social disorder. I mean, that happens when an area ends up getting a lot of vacancy and issues. I mean, we're in a unique period of time. It's not in your ward, but of course, everybody's got to work together on that sort of thing. Have you got plans or notions on initiatives to try and sort of, I guess, make Calgary's downtown more appealing, I think, both to citizens and to, of course, commercial customers to hopefully start filling those spaces?
Yeah, and so we do have a downtown strategy team. That was, it's taken a couple of years to fill that team properly, and so they've just given that team a director. And so his name's Tom Muller, and I've worked with Tom for many years, and he's in charge of the whole downtown strategy, which is a great. What's going to be great for this team to work together. And there's a lot of office to residential conversions, and that's great. So we can start moving people downtown, get that density of people living there. But what we really need now is the amenities. So how do we draw those people downtown, and who's the audience? So are we looking at drawing in students? Are we looking at drawing families? This single folks. So you need to make sure you're crafting the downtown to the right audiences that want to live down there. I know it's not really part of Ward 1, but a vibrant and sustainable downtown really does help the suburban communities. We got to get that tax base downtown so that we can look at opportunities outside of that area. And it's been struggling for a long time. I'm trying to think, like pre-pandemic, we're looking 2016, 2017, when things started to kind of go, sideways. And then, we had the pandemic and it just kind of got worse. And I think that's what we now need to look forward and say, okay, how can we draw the right balance of people and amenities downtown to increase that tax base so that the rest of the city can really benefit from it?
So, I mean, it's kind of tied into it and related, back to that area though of social disorder and challenges. And I mean, that's I think a multi-government level sort of thing. We got mental health issues to deal with. We've got addiction issues to deal with and poverty issues, but it does tie into the municipal and transit.
Mhm.
Some LRT stations are still remaining closed. I know there's been more initiative to bring security and police on, but people are kind of wondering, well, how long are these facilities going to remain shut down? Because it feels like a band-aid solution to a bigger problem. I mean, it's understandable. It was out of control down there. Something had to happen quickly, but what's on the go to try and get things, I guess, kind of closer to normal? Because that's what will draw people downtown as well more, if they feel safe when they can ride downtown and enjoy it.
So we had a couple weeks ago, we had an emergency meeting with transit, and so they offered some solutions right away to what was happening in some of the more northwest stations that we've seen an increase of homelessness and crime and mental health issues. So we and not just that, it's got to make sure that it's safe for everybody. And so we've added more officers. There was 18 graduating class that was able to jump on right away. I believe there's another class of new transit officers going through the system right now. And this is a bigger problem, right? Like the transit stuff we're seeing is just, it's a piece of it all. But what we really need to focus on is, how are we working towards our mental health strategy? How are we working with our provincial partners in order to make sure that there's funding to get the right resources in place to support what's happening? We had a meeting today with CPS as well. It's one of the areas that's, got some issues happening in the community because of what's happening in the transit. So we have to make sure we're working together. But we as a city need to work with all levels of government to get the proper funding and resources to support our communities. This is really important. What I would also say is that some of these train stations, they might need a little bit extra, equipment. Do we need turnstiles? Maybe. Do we need more cameras? Maybe. We need to start looking at municipalities that are much larger than Calgary and learn from them. I don't think I've been to a train station in Vancouver or Toronto that you can get in without a ticket on the platform. So these are things we need to start reconsidering. And Transit's been really great. They've been really open to hearing our suggestions. And will it cost more money? Possibly, but these are the conversations council has to have in order to keep our transit and our roads safe. So we've got to really fundamentally focus on our priorities, particularly this year moving forward for the next 3, and understanding from the last couple of years that we're in a different place now. We'll increase ridership. I would, a lot of people think increased ridership is going to change everything, and everything's going to go back to normal, and we don't know that. And so I think you'd be naive to say, yeah, it will. But I think we've got to be very cognizant. We're at a totally different time in our lives now, and the city is a different place.
Yeah. So in talking with multiple levels, that's always been a challenge in municipalities. The relationship of the last administration and the provincial government was pretty toxic. And the current one, unfortunately, at least to a degree, has been a little bit challenged, to say the least, when it came to things like health authority, who has the authority to look out, I guess, for on health regulations, whether it's municipal or provincial, and if there's a difference of opinion. It seems to have been resolved for the moment, but has there been any discussion? An item that comes up periodically quite often is the pursuit of a city charter or adjustments to the Municipal Governance Act. Are you taking part in or looking at any of those kinds of initiatives in the future?
I keep myself with we keep ourselves apprised of all the information. I believe this morning I heard that Minister McIver has made some surgical changes to the MGA regarding just putting some positions in place for the cities not to put specific health regulations on their own cities. But that's where we're sitting with that. And I'm not putting any initiatives forward to change the MGA at this point, or allowing the cities to have more power or less power. The province has gone in to do a surgical change. That's good, because if we're going to open up the MGA to do bigger changes, that's a whole different story. There's things in the MGA that that's not just health and safety. There's planning things that can be looked at as well. So this is something that I heard this morning, that it was very minor, very surgical, and then we just kind of learn from that and say, does it ever have to change again? And I always think you can always go back if you need to. It's really important to have those conversations, and that relationship's really important as well.
What about in the regional area things? I'm actually living in Prudence. I'm right on the edge of the city, even though I work in the city, and I lived in the city for 30 years. So I'm still concerned with city issues, of course. But there's been a lot of clashes, again, when it comes to the metropolitan plan and some possible overriding of authority of municipalities, Foothills, Rocky View, and such. You're on at least one of the more suburban wards. Are you going to be looking into some of those issues as things go forward? It's been quiet, I guess, on the front of the new administration so far, but I can imagine as the city considers outward growth as is normal, we're going to see some sparks probably flying pretty soon. So perhaps we could preemptively avoid some of those.
So I don't sit on any of the committees with that for the MD of Rocky View or the other municipality committees at this point. But there's different important issues, obviously bordering each of the municipalities. We do share a very fine border with the MD of Rocky View. So, I have Links Ridge, for example, and it's kind of split between Bearspaw, but Bearspaw is not in Ward 1. So there's always little issues that we may have to work together as a city municipality together, which is important. And that's, again, relationship building and making sure you have that, those conversations conversations at the table. But right now, what I'm really focusing on is listening to the constituents, and those that really do border those lines, and making sure that they're being taken care of. And if there's issues happening on the MD side that's affecting them, then it's my responsibility to have that conversation with the MD of Rocky View.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I think I covered a lot of what I wanted to cover. Are there a few issues you'd like to address before I let you go here?
No, I mean, I think this has been a great opportunity to have a conversation, and I would say there's a lot more to come for sure in the next 3.5 years. So happy to come on the show again one day. Cory, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. That's part of why I wanted to stay a little broad. I'm hoping to talk to you again in the future as we get specific issues and things like that, but just to get a feel with a new councillor on where you're going and what you're looking to do. But as I said, so far, I'm not out for plain flattery, but it's just good to see that you've been looking at issues broadly, it seems, and you're your own person, which is really appreciated and not always the case in City Hall. So thanks, and thanks for coming on, and I hope we talk again soon.
Thank you so much.